How's it going, guys? What of course you'll be seeing today is some 43-6 tank conquest gameplay, and what you'll see is a nice illustration of how I like to play in a tank. You'll see, of course, as I approach this tank here, I basically shoot it at a 90 degree angle for max damage. And what you'll see is me controlling an area of the map. That's how I like to play with tanks. I don't like to rush between flag to flag because, especially if you're attacking an enemy flag with not a lot of infantry support around you, I don't care how good of a tank driver you are, 2 to 3 RPGs at once when you don't have active protection will knock you down really quick. It don't matter. The odds aren't in your favor. So if you play areas like I am here for this flag that I'm approaching right now, and you play with your 2 gimmies, and you make sure that no one takes your 2 to 3 gimme flags in this area, and you control the middle one, not only are you going to increase your probability of success, you'll have infantry mates basically repairing you, but at the same time, you're basically locking down an area of the map with little to no danger, and that's how I like to play tanks. Anyway, enough of that. Recently, what I wanted to talk about with this commentary is one of the DICE developers, I forgot his name, put out a tweet recently saying if we were to put out, like, say, 4 to 5 maps in a DLC, which would they be? And I guess maybe this is hinting at the fact that they want to release a DLC to make up for the absolute disaster that Battlefield 4 has been as a game, sort of a outreach to the community. I don't know. I'm just pure speculation. Don't shoot the messenger if that isn't the actual correctness. I'm just trying to apply the logic and, you know, put it forth as a potential idea. But I'd welcome that idea for sure, because we know for sure we only got one more DLC next on the actual schedule, but that won't be coming out till late 2014, early 2015, and the maps have already been decided. So to put out that question would mean that they're probably thinking about another DLC. And that being said, here's the question I pose to you. What maps would you want to see? Which 4 or 5 would you want to see? And list them in the comments. And of course, with this commentary, what I'm going to do today is give you the 4 or 5 or so that I would choose, but I'm going to list a whole lot of them that I wouldn't mind seeing at all. And the first thing I should say is I'm not going to list any Battlefield 2, despite the fact that Battlefield 2 had a lot of popular maps. And the reason for that is I didn't get functional internet till about 2010 for online gaming, I should say. I was on dial-up or like lower tier DSL for a while, so I didn't basically get anything worth being able to play online till about 2010. So I have no experience with Bad Company 2. So for me to recommend a map, having not played it, wouldn't make a lot of logical sense. So bear with me in that regard. But if Battlefield 2 has a lot of good maps and a lot of people would recommend it, then I'd have to research it and take up your word for it. What, of course, I'll do is break down all the maps that I, having played from Bad Company 2 on, would love to see return in, say, a fan appreciation DLC. So here we go. First things first, what I'm going to do is divide it into 2 tiers, and I'm going to divide them in tiers of modes. What I'd like to see is rush maps return separately, and I'd like to see conquest maps return separately. And the reason why is Battlefield 2 did this perfectly. A lot of conquest maps were great in terms of Bad Company 2, but at the same time, they didn't play as well in Rush, and vice versa. What I'm also hoping is that a lot of these maps that I'm seeing here, I'm hoping they don't change around an awful lot, because I haven't liked any of, like, the DLC, the Second Assault DLC that came out for Battlefield 4 had many changes to it, and a lot of them, for me, weren't very good. I did not like Second Assault DLC, to be honest with you. It wasn't... I felt the changes were too radical from what they were before, despite the previous editions having issues understandably acceptable. That being said, I still didn't really like the changes much. So I feel with these Bad Company 2 and Battlefield 3 maps that I'm going to list, I'm hoping that they're not changing it up a lot. Maybe add in an extra flank and a choke point that was a problem, but don't change from a formula that was very successful to begin with. So, listing rush maps, Eureka Harbor was an absolute favorite of mine. A lot of people didn't like it because it's sniper heaven, but I mean, as you guys see, I play every form of recon there is. I play the hybrid role, I play the aggressive role, I play the objective recon, the long range recon. So Eureka Harbor is really nice for recon, and it was just I felt it was balanced quite well because it had that nice cover versus being able to flank quite often, and I thought it was a perfect rush map. Same here for Isla Inocentes. Forgive me on the pronunciation, it's irrelevant. You know what map I mean. And anyway, that was another one I liked. And can you imagine, say, in Battlefield 4, being able to put in 2 attack boats fighting against each other in the water between the maps and the MCOMs, that would be a blast. Maybe throw in another little bird or a transport chopper along the way. Either way, we'll figure out the balance, but you understand the potential that map brings with the Battlefield 4's new vehicles. Port Valdez is another one. It's the nice snowy maps. You had the nice balance of being able to flank through the tree line with snow and also attack in buildings in the first 2 MCOM sets, so it's nice. That would be another one I'd love to see come back. Of course, Valparaiso. Valparaiso, another one, Sniper Heaven, a lot of fun, fantastic rush map. So of course, if I was to designate Tier 1 as a rush section, then the 4 I've already listed would be enough for me to probably buy, or especially even if it was a free DLC, obviously I'd play these. Because these maps I feel were very well balanced and they were a ton of fun to play, didn't have a lot of problems. The next match, I'm missing a few maps, needless to say. There's some that, of course, I'll leave out. The next one here, White Pass, I might put into Tier 2 of Conquest, and the reason for that is because I feel this map played super well in Conquest, and it was pretty decent in Rush as well, but I felt it played better in Conquest, so I'd put it into Tier 2. But again, it could go anywhere, so those 5 maps are great, and of course there's more, but those are the 5 that I'd probably pick immediately. If I was to do an honorable mention for Rush, I might put in Harvest Day, and that's, I don't know, maybe some others, but that would make a good DLC alone for me, those 5. That's how much I really enjoyed them. The next section, of course, is the Battlefield 3 section, and the reason why, and again, first and second tiers. One map that, of course, everyone seems to like is Grand Bazaar, and as much as some critics might say, oh, it's basically just a square, it is, but I thought it was a very good Conquest map. So I could put, but it's a decent rush map too. There was the choke point at the turn. I think it was in the 3rd set of MCOMs. So maybe if you opened up another flank route, then it would be even more interesting. But I still feel it would be worthy enough of putting into either tier, 1 or 2, Conquest or Rush. Dalmavon Peak is one I'd probably put in a Rush. Didn't play well in Conquest because, of course, any smart team that played the tunnels, controlling the 2 choke points, immediately RPGing the tanks as it entered the middle row and just making sure a chopper didn't go behind you. Easy peasy map, and that was a big issue for that set of MCOMs, but it played pretty well in Rush. Another one I personally really liked from the Battlefield 3 maps that I'd probably throw into like Tier 1 for Rush was Karg Island, but you could throw it into Conquest too. There were issues in terms, of course, of the attack chopper. It could utterly destroy everyone in Rush, and attack jets were a big issue too. But with the latest patch that'll be coming out in September, dealing with air balance and different, or maybe even later on down the road if it doesn't for this one, correct me if I'm wrong regardless. If there is a balance stricken and it's not too bad, then I definitely love Karg Island. I liked it even with the air imbalance anyway, even if I wasn't using choppers. Because I just really like that map. Add in attack boats and you're got a whole new element. North Shore Canals is a Conquest map I like. I didn't like North Shore Canals all that much in terms of Rush, especially if you're the attackers, because against a decent team that locked you down on the first set, it was basically one of those ones where you'd want to rage quit because it frustrated you so much. But once you got past the first set, it was a lot of fun. So again, that's another throw into either tier. And Sign Crossing, of course, is one that I'd probably recommend as well, somewhere in that mix. Tehran Highway being another that a lot of people didn't like, but I seem to like a little bit more than the rest of the community. So pretty much I'm listing all the Battlefield 3 base maps. I didn't really like the Back to Kharkiv map pack a lot. I know that'll probably generate a lot of buzz, but to me I wasn't a big fan of it. Strike at Kharkiv was probably my favorite of them. And the close quarters maps I wouldn't want to see in a separate DLC, despite the fact that I liked them a lot. You could throw in, from Armored Kill, you could throw in, say, Armored Shield, Bandar Desert if you really wanted. Aftermath I thoroughly enjoyed. I liked ZD Palace. I liked, Tala Market, Marquez Monolith, Epicenter. You could throw in that whole DLC again, too. I'm not sure I'd want it as a separate DLC, but you could throw in several of those maps. And I really liked Nebadon Flats from the Endgame. Kassar Railroad played well, especially in Capture the Flag. So if I, basically to sum it up short, if I had to name 5 and you put like a gun to my head, I'd absolutely want to see Grand Bazaar. I'd absolutely want to see probably Dalmavon Peak. Maybe Azidi Palace. And then if you were going to throw in 2 rush maps from Bad Company 2, I'd probably want to see Arica Harbor and maybe Port Valdez as the 5 if we were going to mix it up. If we were going to have 2 separate ones in terms of the tiers, like Conquest and that, then I'd have to look for another 4 or 5. But those would be the 5 I'd choose. I thoroughly enjoy all those maps, and I'd love to see it. Let me know your 5. See you later.